This program is brought to you in association with First National Bank of Botswana.
The role of the leader is to catch everyone doing something right, to praise them, to value them, to make them feel as though they're essential, to make them feel as though we can't do it without you.
The progression and development of any institution, whether governmental or otherwise, depends on the quality of its leaders, how they are able to influence change, adapt to change, and put the needs of those they lead ahead of personal agendas. While the Western world is eons ahead in terms of developing their countries, Africa is reportedly still trailing behind, with studies showing that even though the West is now in the fifth phase of revolution, Africa allegedly has barely scratched the surface on the fourth. This is evidenced by minimal uptake of digital solutions, internet connectivity challenges, and supposedly skyrocketing levels of corruption in some African countries. As a whole, the challenges that face Africa go beyond than just technology dynamics and surface-level leadership styles. To help us unpack, we have invited onto the program Rene Carayol, born in the Gambia, but now living and working in the United Kingdom as keynote business speaker, FTSE 100 CEOs and heads of state advisor, and of course, an entrepreneur.
Rene, thank you so much for joining us on First Issues, affording us your time. And we're with you here today to talk about, the rapidly changing world that we're existing and living in, and how perhaps Africa can catch up if they haven't already. But before we get into that conversation, perhaps we could start off first by you giving us your stellar introduction.
Look, first of all, it's great to be back in Bots. I've been away for probably nearly 5 years. It feels a long time, and it feels great. Come back to Gaborone and it has changed. It has changed. It's wonderful to see. Progress is happening quicker than locals would see. Those of us who've been away for a long time and come back, we see the spectacular progress, and it is spectacular. So, whilst I've been away, as you know, I spend my time coaching chief executives of large multinational businesses. Very privileged to do that. But we've probably seen the biggest change in leadership that I've ever seen. 15 years ago, the chief executive, usually a man, would be making every call, solving every problem, authorizing everything to do with no matter what size the business. About 10, 12 years ago, we saw the advent of multifaceted technology. It was complex, it was fast. One person couldn't do it all on their own anymore. We went through a period that we called collaboration was the new leadership. The team ran it, and it was exciting. Where new faces at the top of companies, younger faces, people from different backgrounds. The pandemic has changed it yet again. Now we're finding ourselves with our workforce could be anywhere in the world, in any time zone, with any background. That means the leaders have to create environments where everyone can flourish no matter what their background. They can bring their authentic self to their place of work without feeling they're going to be judged or they're going to be asked to fit in. They're just going to want to perform. And we're seeing this around the world. It's not just exciting, it's not just the right thing, it's the biggest driver of business performance I've ever witnessed. And that's what I'd like to major on today. We're seeing it all around the world. We're not seeing enough of it in Africa.
But what could be causing that? I mean, you've just been speaking about the pandemic and how, companies now have employees all over the world, all over the countries. But during the pandemic here in Gaborone, I'll speak to that because that's my experience. We're working from home, people were working from wherever they were. But now we're back from the pandemic. We are not seeing hybrid workspaces anymore. We're not even seeing people working from home at all. So why do you think we're lagging in that sense?
So it's a great question. The insight I would give you is having your workforce far-flung and in different places with different backgrounds changed the way leaders had to operate. We had to be more visible. We had to communicate more effectively. We had to demonstrate our compassion with those who were in environments which didn't lend themselves to being at top performance. We had to worry about people's mental health. We had to worry about the stress they're under. We had to worry about wellness. So we saw a new generation of leadership. Empathy was the buzzword, emotional intelligence, being there to care. I'll give you an example of this. One of the women I coached, she's the president for Europe for TKX, which owned TK Maxx, $54 billion American retailer. She has 70 vice presidents reporting to her that run Europe. For 3 years, she was unable to meet with them face to face with the pandemic. She needs to find a way of connecting with them. Every Friday, she'd sit at home and she'd draw up a list of the 10 people she hadn't spent personal time with, usually via Zoom or Teams. And she would just telephone them, not Zoom them, just telephone them. No to-do list, no progress updates, just, David, how are you? We haven't spoken for some time. And they'd have a gossip. They'd have a chat for 10 minutes or so. Do you know what that did for David's confidence?
I can imagine. No, I know it feels personal.
Yes. This is the leadership I'm talking about. This is how leadership has changed. We've had to become more personal, more caring, more compassionate. Understand that not any two of our people are the same. Everyone's as unique as their fingerprints. So now the standard message for everyone, one size fits all, no, one size fits no one. The role of the leader is to enable everyone to bring, guess what David did on the back of a 10-minute phone call? He felt he was part of something special. He felt Louise cared about him. He felt there's someone out there who thinks about him on a regular basis. I'm going to give as much as I can.
I think somewhere there I picked up on you speaking about inclusion, correct me if I'm wrong. So this is one of the buzzwords that were thrown around during the pandemic, and we're talking about it. But like you're saying, Africa is still yet to catch up. What is it that we need to do to make people feel included? People from different cultures, people from different countries even, just everybody, people of different beliefs.
So this is vital. To me, this is the biggest part of the change of leadership today, inclusive leadership. But here's the rub. No one ever fully appreciates the power of inclusion until they've experienced exclusion. And for many of our leaders who live in quite a rarefied, wealthy atmosphere, they haven't tasted exclusion since school days or ever. So we have to enable them to understand just how traumatizing exclusion is. Just how it feels when you're not invited, you're not included, you're not part of it. So we've got, I'll give you some examples. We've got people who've joined companies and they're not called to the meetings where their budget is determined or utilised. Guess how they feel? Decisions are made about their area that they are not privy to. There are some meetings that they're never invited to. We have many people working in businesses all around Africa today who feel they don't have a voice. No one is interested in their opinions or their views. What if we could harness that by making them feel we are interested in your views? You can make a difference. The way strategy works, strategy comes from the top, but when it starts to hit the rest of the workforce, you want everyone to push it a bit every day, to find a little better way of doing it, to find a little quality, a little pace, a little more richness in it every day. If I don't feel I'm part of something special, if I don't feel I'm included, if I don't feel my voice counts, I'm not going to do that for you. But here's the thing that I want everyone to understand. The more I feel trusted, the more I go the extra mile.
That's true.
I'm not going to go home at 5 o'clock every day. I'm working on something that's really important. I've got a few ideas here that we might do differently. I'm sitting at home thinking, do you know what? We could do this differently at work. Yeah. That's what you want. And inclusion for me means we've got to change some old bad habits. As I travelled around Africa, the first thing I noticed, no nation has the criminals. No nation has, their people never cause, it's always our neighbours. It's always our neighbours. You go to South Africa and they'll say, oh, these people from Zim, these Zambians, these people from Malawi. Where I was born in Gambia, it's the Senegalese who are coming. It's these people from Guinea-Bissau. Everywhere you go, it's neighbours. But in actual fact, the mindset shift I'm looking for, those neighbours are the source of entrepreneurialism. They've left their comfortable homes and turned up with nothing. And it's usually the poorer nations, the more difficult environments, moving to a better, safer environment. But they come with nothing. Many years ago, when I was in Bots, I was up at Francistown at the Bochum conference. And we did some research beforehand we're looking for this rare beast, a really rare beast, the Botswana entrepreneur. And we had a very simple definition. Let's find someone who's found financial independence through starting a business. We found Kenyans. We found Zimbabweans. We found South Africans. I didn't find that person from Botswana. And it would be the same if I was giving this talk in Zambia or if I was in Kenya. Why? People come with nothing. They have nothing to lose. They wake up earlier. They work longer hours. They take bigger risks. They provide jobs. Let's not be afraid of them. Let's embrace them. They will help us kickstart our economies. They will provide jobs. They don't take jobs. They build jobs. A different mindset. It's still difficult to get into Bots if you're African. I know through personal experience. I have a Gambian passport, I have a British passport. On one trip I made the mistake using my Gambian passport. I will not be doing that again. I was invited to stand next to some of my African brothers from Nigeria and Senegal. After a while I decided to walk back into the same queue. This time I put my British passport in. I was greeted with a smile and welcomed. Yes.
Thank you so much for staying with First Issues. We continue our conversation with keynote speaker and leadership advisor, Rene Carayol.
But let us talk about that some more. What is that bad habit that you just referred to? Why are we so afraid of our African brothers and sisters? Why are we seeing them as so much a threat rather than an opportunity to actually even further our own agendas?
So these are legacies of colonialism, the divide and rule. The British were past masters, the French were very good at it, the Portuguese were good at it. Setting nation against nation, tribe against tribe, easier for them to manage when they're always at conflict with each other. Around the world though, these unions of nations, it's difficult. I'm sitting here with my British passport. We were part of the European Union. What happens in these organizations, people go defending their flag, defending their nation, not thinking about what more could we do together. Congress in the US, people go defending their states. African Union, we go with the mindset of defending our states. It's never the mindset of, if we come together, we all win. It's, I'm not prepared to sacrifice anything. It's the wrong mindset.
Terrible mindset.
The inclusive mindset is, we are stronger together. What can we do to help each other? You can't even fly to each other's capitals. We have to fly out to Europe and come back in. We don't trade with each other. It's near madness. We don't work together. And I think what we're seeing when we say inclusion, we see it at a social level, at a business level, at an academic level, at a governmental level, and at a national level. And the truth is, we are all stronger together. Mandela did something incredible in South Africa with his Rainbow Nation. We dream of more Mandelas, bringing us together as a continent, but even in each of our nations, looking beyond tribes, looking beyond genders, looking beyond faiths. Everyone coming together. We do a lot of work around inclusion in many different businesses around the world. The biggest, most yawning chasm and gap we see, it's not gender, it's not ethnicity, it's not faith, it's generations. This is where I think the powerful opportunity is, but we're failing to grasp it. We see a younger generation around the world that's frustrated with those of my vintage. They're frustrated. We don't understand them. We don't get them. We're too slow. We're not tech savvy. We're not joined up enough. We don't think about climate change. We don't think about sustainability. We don't think about inclusion. We frustrate them. They frustrate us. And from my peers, from the people I coach, they're snowflakes. They're forever moaning. They're always complaining. They want it now. They want to be promoted. They're not prepared to work hard. They don't understand how tough it is to get to the top. They need to give... Always talking about burnout, always talking about wellness, always talking... So when we're coaching, we say, look at each other's strengths. Stop frustrating each other with the things that we do differently. That's life. Look at what this younger generation brings. They're generally better educated, more travelled, more tech savvy. They're more joined up, they're more socially aware. They care. When we bring them into our businesses, into our organisations, they bring something very powerful. But you know, they have a voice. They're going to challenge us. It's a good thing.
It's a great thing.
And those companies that are harnessing this are doing something very special. The biggest cause of conflict we see in Africa today is idle young men. Young men in their 20s with nothing to do, who want to work, want to be part of something special. Let's give them these opportunities. And let's stop thinking it's government's job to do that. Change your mindset, inclusive mindset. Bring the entrepreneurial class from outside. Allow them to come in and create jobs. Remember, in developed economies, in the UK, 90% of the workers work for small to medium enterprises. Only 10% work for the big conglomerates. The dream is that we come and build this multifaceted battery factory in Botswana. We provide 10,000 jobs. No. A few more dry cleaners, a few more courier companies, a few more bakeries, but you want lots of them. That's how we provide work. That's how we change them. That's how we get these idle young men something to do.
Perhaps before we close our conversation, we could talk about what it would take to change the programming that you spoke of, the generational programming, the colonialism legacy that was left for us. What would it change? What would it take to change that kind of mindset?
So we saw this in Ukraine. Since the Second World War, Ukraine was one of the most broken down, polarized, at each other's throats, toughest nations we've ever seen. Presidents were moving on and off on a regular basis. They were never unified. There were different sects all over the place. And then we have the tragic invasion. I've seen nothing short of a masterclass of inclusive leadership from President Zelensky. And this is not political. It's a comment on a style of leadership that I think is the one I would like to see in businesses, in academia, in governments. This guy worked so hard to unify a nation around a cause. He is visible every single day communicating to his people. Every single day he's communicating to his partner network, his stakeholders. He's in Congress in America, he's in the UK, he's in Korea, he's in Europe. The First Lady, his wife, he's just as visible, just as inspiring. They're taking risks every day of their own well-being because they put their people first. Everyone is included. No matter what their background, no matter what language they speak, whether they're Russian speaking or Ukrainian speaking, where they're educated, which part of the country they're from, everyone is included. And that ability to make all of us feel as though we're part of something special. So, a story to bring this home. 3 men working on a building site in the burning sun. Breaking rocks is the hardest work you've ever seen. The journalist comes to the first one and says, why do you do this job? I haven't worked for 3 years, I took the first job I could get. Comes the second, why do you do this job? I've got a wife and 3 kids to feed, I took the first job I could get. Goes to the final one and says, why do you do this job? He looks up proudly, wipes the sweat from his brow, and he says, I'm helping to build a cathedral. I'm helping to build a cathedral. It might be a mosque, synagogue or temple, depending on where you are. But no one does a menial, nothing job anymore. Everyone is important. You're essential to our ability to deliver. That's the role of leadership. It's not strategy, it's inclusion. And if everyone feels they're part of something special, they go the extra mile. We change the nation.
This program was brought to you in association with First National Bank of Botswana.